What's up? I'm Angie, and you are listening to Podcast That Pays, the podcast for online business owners who want to grow their business and sell their offers using podcasting. If you like no fluff, tell it like it is advice from a marketing-loving podcast agency owner, you are in the right place. So glad you're here. Let's dive in. What's up? Welcome back to another episode. And in today's episode, I am answering the question, how do I know if my business is ready to start a podcast? So there is a lot of talk out there. People say a lot of different advice about this topic. I've heard things like you have to have a big audience first, or you should have XYZ thing done first in your business, or you should do blah, blah, blah first in your business. And so I'm just going to drop in and give my take. So number one, you're kind of asking the wrong question. The question that you should be asking first is, do I enjoy this? Is this something that I think that I can keep up with? Do I like turning on the microphone? Do I like talking to myself? Am I the kind of person that can sustain this? Is a better question than, is my business ready for a podcast? Because regardless if your business is ready, if this is not something that you are going to sustain, it's not going to matter. And I just think that as someone who's been in the online, business space and doing digital marketing and all these different channels and all these different platforms that you could use, one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is that what's more important than where you are and what's right to do for your business and what strategy you use is that you actually can sustain the platform that you're using. So if that means that you use less platforms, but you actually enjoy creating content on the platforms that you use, that's better than using all the platforms, being burnt out, not being able to be consistent. It's much better to do one thing that you could be really consistent at and that you actually enjoy. Because when you're doing things that you don't enjoy in your business, it's such an energy suck. It drains your energy and you don't enjoy it. And I don't think you do things as well when you don't enjoy the things that you're doing. So if you're that kind of person, there are some people who are just like machines who are like, this is good for my business and I'm just going to crank this out and pump this out. And that's fine. But most women entrepreneurs are not that way. We have feelings and we like to feel good about the things that we're doing. And it has to like inspire us and spark something in us. And we have to be excited about the thing that we're doing or else we don't want to do it and it really drains us. So that's question number one. Is this something that you can really sustain? Do you think that you would really enjoy it? What are your reasons for wanting to do a podcast? Like, is it because you have, this big message that you want to get out? There's so many considerations. There's so many episodes that I have here about a podcast and like how you should approach a podcast in your business. And so I would just implore you to think about the realities of what it takes to run one. And if that's something that sounds exciting to you and that's something that you can do. That's the first consideration that you want to have, not just is my business ready for a podcast. The other consideration is from my personal experience when I started my first life coaching business. I started a podcast at the very beginning of my business, before I even had an audience, before I knew what I was doing. I think before I even had offers in my business. I just got this nudge. I remember clear as day, I was swimming in the pool one day and something dropped into my spirit and was like, you need to start a podcast. And it's funny because what was birthed from that just little nudge that I followed is kind of crazy and incredible, but I just started it. I didn't know a lot about it. I didn't do a lot of research, and I actually got my very first client from my podcast. And I'm not saying that that happens to everybody. This was years ago. The podcast, the landscape has changed a little bit when it comes to like business owners starting podcasts, right? Like there's a lot more people out there that are doing it than that were doing it back in, I don't know, when I started this, 2017, when I started my podcast, or 2018. So a lot of things have changed. But I'm saying that to say that I don't think that there are rules. I don't think that there are rules to when you can start a podcast. I think you have to want to. I think you have to just have realistic expectations. I think that you have to make sure that you have the capacity. All of those things are more important still than where should my business be at? But I'm going to get to that. All those things are still more important. Now, the thing with the business and having the big audience and all of this advice that you have heard before, around you need a big audience before you start your podcast comes from the place of, and this is what you have to understand, different advice comes from places with people trying to achieve different goals. So a lot of times, like, you'll hear that because the goal of that person that's giving the advice or the people who they're speaking to are people who are wanting to start a podcast and get so many follows so that they can get sponsorship deals. And they need a lot of volume and they need a lot of people to listen. In that case, this would be true. If that is something that you are wanting to do, it is easier to start your podcast when you already have a big audience. Not to say that you can't start it when you have a small one, but it is, the bigger the audience, the more the downloads, the more you'll be able to get for sponsorship dollars. You can't even start talking sponsorship dollars until you're at like 1,000 downloads per episode. So you just have to be mindful of where certain advice comes from. If you're listening to this, my advice is super targeted towards business owners who want to start podcasts for their business to use as a way of marketing themselves. So I don't really talk about getting sponsorships. I don't talk about volume and having so many downloads because that's not necessarily the thing that is the most important when it comes to getting people to buy something after they're listening to your podcast. That's not the thing. So I don't talk about that. So take my advice and filter it through what it is that you truly want from your podcast. So if you are a business owner and you want to sell your offers and you want to use your podcast in conjunction with your business and your marketing, take my advice. If that's not what your goals are, maybe you need to take someone else's advice on the subject. So now let's talk about how a podcast can impact your business and what would be advantageous for you to have set up prior to starting your podcast. So I guess finally answering the real question that you want to know, given that you've already answered and thought about the other two things. A podcast can be a powerful, powerful, powerful marketing engine in your business. And I have clients that use podcasting as their main long form evergreen content, and then it gets redistributed to YouTube, to social media, to all the things. So in order to have like a podcast that works for your business, I would say that at the very least, you need to have a marketing system already set up in your business, or use the podcast and create a marketing system in your business. So meaning, I don't want you to start a podcast and it be one more thing that you just have to put on your fucking plate. I want you to start a podcast and it be something that helps to streamline your content creation and make things easier for you. That's when I think you're ready to start a podcast for your business. It's not about the audience size. It's about, do you have the capacity? Do your goals align with this? And are you ready to set up a full marketing system in your business? Do you have the capacity for that? Do you understand how to do that? Is this something that are going to be able to sustain? That's when I think you're ready. I don't want you to start a podcast and then you have your podcast that's over here separate. You have your Instagram that's over here separate. You have your YouTube that's over here separate. So you have to have a really good plan and a good marketing system on how this is going to work in conjunction with what you already have going on. So that's how you know if your business is ready for you to start a podcast. If you're at that point to start a podcast, it's when you, number one, decide, when you feel like you have the capacities to sustain it, if this is something that you enjoy, and if you're ready to almost like up level, I hate saying that word, but if you're ready to streamline is a better word, your marketing efforts and your content, then yes, you are ready to start your podcast for your business. So I hope that helps. I hope that answered your question. Basically, it's if you want to do it, you feel like you can do it, and you're going to use it in a smart way to streamline your content, then go right ahead. There is no perfect time. You're going to learn as you go. You're not going to be perfect when you start. You're going to get better and better at it, and that's just the nature of it. So thanks for being here. And if you have any questions or you're listening to this and want to talk podcasting with me, come hop in my DMs on Instagram at Angie M. Spearman, and I will talk to you in the next episode. Hey, if you enjoyed the show, head over to podcastthatpays.com to get started on your way to creating a podcast that pays. And don't forget to follow this show and take a screenshot that you were listening and tag me on Instagram at Angie M. Jordan. I'd love to meet you and show you some love over there. Thank you so much for being here. I love you. Let's get this money.